Netflix releasing never-before-seen video of Sean Diddy Combs filmed just days before his arrest on charges of sex trafficking and racketeering in 2024. The footage is part of a 4-part docuseries, Sean Combs: The Reckoning, premiering Tuesday.
How did you get that footage of Diddy?
I figured most journalists would not disclose their sources.
Does he know y'all have this in the doc?
I would doubt he knows.
So when this airs, that'll be the first time that his legal team, Diddy, that everybody knows that this footage is now seeing the light of day. Perhaps.
Combs' team firing back in a statement to NBC News, saying the Netflix so-called documentary is a shameful hit piece and that they relied on stolen footage that was never authorized for release. His team sending a cease and desist to Netflix.
Yes, indeed, man. I mean, had to bring you back, man. This documentary got everybody talking and people going at it. So, it was only right to bring you back and get your point of view, man. But I want to get right into it, man. 50 and Ja. How you feel about both of them going at it? You seen it?
I couldn't do nothing but see it, bro. You know what I'm saying? Because 50, tried to smash him with one of the stories that we told on Art of Dialogue before. But what people don't realize is that the story that they put out there is like that having to have some money to keep Big and Craig Mack around before he got to Clyde Davis. You know what I'm saying? They wasn't able to tell that story because they didn't have no intel on that story or what went down, or they didn't do their investigations right, which he also led up to the reason why Wolf ain't here today. You understand? They didn't tell that story. They didn't tell a story about Jessica Rosenbaum, who was at the City College situation. You understand? When it was Puff, Heavy D, and Jessica. And that was the Valley Mob. That's the only way. Wolf ended up losing his life behind Puff and his bullshit. And people they didn't even put that in the documentary. Wolf ended up losing his life behind.
A spokesperson for Combs' team responded to NBC News, strongly condemning the Netflix documentary as a shameful hit piece. They accused the production of relying on stolen footage that was never authorized for release. The team has reportedly issued a cease and desist letter to Netflix demanding the removal of the unauthorized material.
I had to bring you back. This documentary got everyone talking, man. A lot of people want to know why you wasn't in it, man.
Well, first and foremost, I thought I was going to be in the documentary at first until I started talking to that director. I think her name is Stapleton. I don't know her name. I don't know, man. Me and 50 talked like 45 minutes. The producers had been calling me and everything. So this one night, 50 called me up and, they got him on the phone, man. He was just talking. We was talking about old times, sit down with Black Hands, sit down with, with Puff kids, the whole Puff situation, and this documentary that he's going to be doing. You know what I'm saying? So I told him that I was going to, have Kirk and Tim. Kirk will be the one who talk about the business part of it. Tim will be the one who talk about the growing up phase with Diddy and everything and over there working in the record industry with him and stuff like that. They was like family. And I was going to talk about, the street stuff, what was going on with Bad Boy, with the security, with Wolf, with the City College, with, the time that I knew about when I was with him up until about early 2004 or something like that. But basically the streets and then the traveling with him and the atmosphere and everything. And then, go back into the Notorious Big stuff with the Tupac and the whole 9 yards, all the stuff that I knew, you know what I'm saying? So we was talking and he sounded like, yo, listen here. They gonna spare no expense with this whole documentary. So I said, all right, cool. So what I did was I spoke to Tim and I spoke to Kirk Burroughs. And I was like, yo, because I had Tim's number. Tim didn't know how to get in touch with Kirk. Kirk didn't know how to get in touch with Tim. But Kirk was trying to tell me, give him the number with the Tim. I said, nah, I ain't doing that. So I gave one of the producers the number in the whole 9 yards to get in touch with Tim because I want to see him get money because I know Tim got a hell of a story with Puff. So then I talked to Tim and I told him, yo, listen here, man, we should go in as a package deal. All three of us, we could tell a hell of a story about this whole documentary. You know what I'm saying? From front to start. Then whatever stuff that they get and everything like that. So let's go in there and ask them for 50 apiece. You know what I'm saying? So Tim was like with it, yo, Gene, whatever, go ahead like that. Kirk was like, yeah, okay, cool, Gene. It was like a general census that we was gonna do this in a whole package deal. You know what I'm saying? And then I started speaking to the producers and everything like that because 50 had told me himself that they was going to spare no cost in doing this because he wanted to tell the story and he wanted to tell the story like it was supposed to be told and everything like that. I said, yeah, okay. So then the director, I got to get her name, man, because it don't even sound, I want to put her on blast because she was telling me, she was saying to me that what I was asking for was crazy and they wasn't spending money like that. I'm talking about you got footage, you got clothing, you got I was doing footage, I had pictures, all the stuff that I had, you could figure out a way to pay a brother and stuff like that. And then I was telling her about some prices that I've already received and I had the invoices to show it. And then she was calling me like I was lying. I'm like, yo, who do you think you talking to? You know what I'm saying? And she was talking about, there's no way nobody paid. Nobody what? I say, first of all you people come with these documentaries and stuff. The first thing you tell me, y'all tell these people out here that y'all don't pay and y'all pay. If you can make a picture, look like $10,000-$15,000, you know what I'm saying? You can sit here and tell me that you're going to pay me for my time sitting right down here with y'all. You understand? So then, one thing led to another. And I was like, all right, well, then, F you. I spoke to 50. And then she said 50. And this is exact words that came out her mouth. 50 does not determine what goes in and go out of this documentary. And he definitely don't pay. He determine what somebody get paid. It's not his documentary like that. I was like, oh, so if it's not his documentary and I spoke to him like that, I don't need to be doing nothing with you because I'm doing this on the strength of him. But you gonna pay me if I do it. So it went back and forth, you know what I'm saying, for a little bit, and then they had Kirk Burrows giving me calls and everything like that. What are you calling me for?
The Netflix docuseries Sean Combs. The Reckoning executive, produced by 50 Cent, has ignited intense debate, sending ripples through the music industry and leaving powerful figures uneasy. But years before 50 Cent turned his lens on Sean Diddy Combs, one insider was already sounding the alarm. Gene Deal, Diddy's former bodyguard. Now, Deal is stepping forward with bombshell allegations that could reshape the narrative. He claims there's unseen footage material the public was never supposed to see that 50 Cent deliberately excluded from the final cut. This has sparked a burning question: why? Why was Gene Deal, a key voice in exposing Diddy's alleged dark side, completely absent from a documentary billed as an unflinching takedown? And what explosive details ended up on the cutting room floor, buried by those who didn't want them revealed? The discomfort intensifies here. When fans noticed Deal's glaring omission, many assumed he chose to stay out, perhaps unwilling to relive the past or get involved in the drama. But according to Deal, nothing could be further from the truth. But Gene Deal emphatically disputes that assumption. He says it couldn't be further from the truth. According to Deal, he was originally set to be a central part of the documentary. Behind the scenes, initial discussions were well underway. Phone calls were exchanged, contacts shared, and the project's vision was presented as bold, thorough, and unapologetic. Deal was not intended to appear alone. The plan reportedly involved multiple insiders, each bringing unique perspectives on the Bad Boy era, from the business business operations and Diddy's personal background to the raw realities of the streets. Together, these voices were meant to deliver a complete and undeniable portrait. Together, these diverse voices would have created a comprehensive portrait of the bad boy era, one so complete that it could neither be ignored, dismissed, nor downplayed. But then, everything changed. What began as a straightforward professional collaboration soon grew tense and uncomfortable. Gene Deal alleges that once discussions turned to money, creative control, and decision-making authority, inconsistencies emerged. Promises no longer aligned with reality, and the behind-the-scenes power dynamics were not what he had initially been told. According to Deal, the high-profile name attached to the project used to lend it credibility and weight did not actually possess the influence or authority that others assumed. That revelation marked the beginning of the end, as the entire collaboration began to fall apart.
Already told, Anthony Wolf Jones had already told them, if you're not taking two tour buses of my niggas from the Valley, that's Co-op City in the Bronx, the Valley in the Bronx. If you're not taking these 2 tour buses of my niggas out there, I'm not going. Had told Puff them, had told Kirk Burrows. You understand? I went down there and Kirk Burrows called me up. He said, yo, Gene, you and Wolf, I got y'all tickets to LA. I said, all right, cool. So I go down there and I pick up the tickets to LA. I got Wolf ticket. So I'm calling Wolf up. I said, yo, Wolf, I got your ticket to go to LA. Wolf said, I ain't going. I said, what you mean you ain't going? He said, yo, Gene, I ain't gonna tell you how I'm making I ain't gonna tell you how to make your money, but I'm gonna let you know this. I told Puff them if they wasn't gonna take 2 tour buses of my niggas out there with us, I'm not going. Wolf is the head of all the functions that has to do with Puff dealing with security. I had my own contract with Puff, yeah. Paul Offord ran Green Gate Security, which is the daily operations of Puff stuff. That's his house, his cars, his transportation. He ran the office, the bad boy office, the clothing, all. He ran the daily operation with his security. Wolf is over whatever's happening with Puff. You understand? Wolf tells Puff them and tell Kirksboro them, no, if y'all not going out there right, nobody should go out there at all. Kirk calls me, I said, yo, Gene, you gonna go? I said, yeah, I'll go, bro. He said, Gene, I said, yo, dog, but we shouldn't be going out there. I tell Kirk the whole, yo, Gene, all y'all gonna be doing is going to the studio and y'all gonna go to Soul Train and go to the studio. Y'all not hanging out. Y'all not doing nothing. All me and Puff did when we went there that month was hang out. And I told people all the time, and I said in the documentary before, I thought this kid had a death wish because all we did was hang out. We never saw Big at not one of the events that me and him went to. The House of Blues, movie theaters, not the California, the Celebrity Club, I guess. Is it Celebrity? No, begins with a C. Never seen him in none of the clubs, none of the places. You understand? Big ain't coming to none of the places. The one time Big went out is when he got the one club that he went out to is and that's where he got. So Wolf did not and was not going anywhere that had to do with California. And it wasn't because of the Jake situation. It was that he wanted to be safe, and the only way he felt safe if he was going out there with the dudes from his clique. And that was the Valley Mob. That's the only way. Wolf ended up losing his life behind Puff and his bullshit. And people they didn't even put that in the documentary. Wolf ended up losing his life behind Puff and his and that with BMF. That's a big segment in my book that I wrote I wrote a whole big situation in my book regarding that, man. And I know you're doing this. I want to say that right there because I was there the night that Meech had promised Puff, you know what I'm saying? He ain't have to worry about Suge Knight. He ain't have to worry about nobody from this point on. And telling Puff some shit made him think that he could talk to Wolf any kind of way. Because if anybody knew, BMF was powerful back then. They had dudes from everywhere. And Meech telling him he ain't have to worry about nobody no more. It made Puff think that he could tell Wolf that he didn't need Wolf no more.
Gene Deal has now begun publicly highlighting elements of the docuseries that he believes were intentionally omitted or downplayed. One glaring absence, in particular, struck him as inexcusable: the death of Anthony Wolf Jones, Diddy's longtime bodyguard. According to Deal, Wolf was far more than just security. He was the cornerstone of Diddy's entire protection detail. He orchestrated movements, established safety protocols, and made critical life-or-death decisions in high-risk situations. During Bad Boy's most turbulent years, Wolf was deeply involved in nearly every aspect of the operation, never merely a background figure. Yet in the documentary, Wolf's name and the circumstances of his tragic death are scarcely mentioned. Deal vehemently disputes the subtle narrative the series presents. He challenges the docuseries' portrayal of responsibility for key events and rejects the long-standing claim that all the era's violence and tension boiled down solely to the East Coast-West Coast rivalry. According to Gene Deal, this framing is deeply misleading, as it conveniently avoids assigning true responsibility where it belongs. What amplifies the disturbance of Wolf's omission is Deal's recounting of the warnings that were allegedly dismissed. He claims Wolf steadfastly refused to travel without stringent security measures in place. Wolf had foreseen the dangers well in advance, instinctively knowing that certain trips should have been avoided entirely. As per Deal, Wolf always placed safety above image or convenience, yet he ultimately suffered the consequences for remaining in close proximity despite his concerns. If the story of someone as pivotal as Wolf could be downplayed or omitted entirely, it prompts a much larger concern. What other truths were diluted, overlooked, or intentionally excluded to safeguard specific narratives?
He also said in a documentary that, Diddy, he used big budget to pay for, Big's funeral.
Yeah, when I heard that ain't the first time I heard it though, bro. They said Big had paid for his funeral through his budget. You know what I'm saying? So if anybody would know that, Kirk Burrow would know that. And I heard Wayne Barrows came out and said some, but to refute that. You know what I'm saying? But if Miss Wallace got a check and the check, if she got if they had Biggie's budget and that was taken out, money was taken out that budget for his funeral, he did use it. And if anybody knew that, Kirk Burrows would know that because he was handling the money and the operations at that time. Wayne Barrows was one of the dudes, him and Mark Pitts, that actually was managing Big's affairs. You understand? They was his manager. Big had told me that he was going to get rid of them because they didn't know what they was doing before he died. I had a conversation with Big. Big said, I'm getting rid of them because they didn't want to F me up because they didn't want to convince him to sell his publishing and his marketing to Puff. They was Puff boys. I guess they met in school or whatever like that. But Big was going to get rid of them. But because he died and his mother didn't know the business, she kept him around for years. If you look at anything that happened with the Notorious Biggs and his camp, you see Wayne Barrows on there as executive producer. And he was just a manager of some of Big Affairs. He was executive producers of damn near everything that went on that had to do with. If Miss Wallace was the executive producer, he was the executive producer too. Look at some of the things that was done. And now he's suing, trying to get money from Faith because of, he's saying that she has to pay the Wallace estate, and Miss Wallace is dead. Big is dead. If the estate is anything, it's CJ, Tatiana, and Faith. That's the estate. But he's saying it's some other kind of thing that he's suing them for. So Wayne Barrows is the dude that call it any way you want to, that's been Sherwood Forest, and he got big them in Sherwood Forest. I'm gonna put it that way. He got his estate in Sherwood Forest.
Crazy, man. But yeah, Kirk Burrows, he spoke a lot in his documentary, man. He was letting everything go. He also said that, Diddy, he did take the Rolling Stone cover from Big after Big died.
Bruh, you have to look at his sociopath, his narcissism, and see that it shows you he really didn't care about Big like he did. What Kirk didn't tell the truth about that whole thing is that even when we was in California, Kirk tried to act like that he didn't know that Puff told him that Big wasn't going to London. I know what the question you asked, but I got to get this out, bro, is that on Thursday, me and Puff was in a limousine. Kirk Burrows was getting Puff the itinerary of what Big and what's his respecting told him that we was leaving Saturday, this, that, and the third, the whole 9 yards. On Thursday, Puff told Kirk Burrows, Big ain't going nowhere. He told him that Thursday, Big was not going nowhere. He said, I don't care what you do. You could go do whatever you want to do, but Big ain't going nowhere. Kirk Burrows was telling him how he had set up this whole and how Arista had paid off all this money for Big to be. Puff was adamant that Big wasn't going nowhere. Now, we were shooting the Hypnotized video. Me and Big was in the Winnebago, and Big was telling me his whole life story. What he wanted to do, his plans, all this shit. He even said, yo, Gene, I would take you with me, but you love that nigga too much. Nigga don't love nobody like that too much. What's up? He said, yo, what's up with the money? I said, nigga, you broke. You know what I'm saying? You owe Mike Gadget $30,000 for, I'm just going in on Big, and we just talking all kind of smoking new.
Gene Deal also accuses the docuseries of being riddled with misinformation, particularly targeting Kirk Burrows, former Bad Boy Records co-founder and president, for what he calls outright dishonesty throughout his interview. The series portrays Burrows as a credible, no-nonsense insider and straight shooter, but Deal insists key facts were either distorted or omitted entirely behind the scenes. In interviews, for example, with The Art of Dialogue, Deal has publicly called out Burrows' claims as lies, including on financial dealings and Biggie's publishing, arguing Burrows lacked the first-hand knowledge he pretended to have. One major red flag for Deal, Burrows' allegation that Diddy's team paid for the notorious B.I.G., Biggie's, lavish 1,997 funeral held March 18 inches Brooklyn with celebrities like Faith Evans and Mary J. Blige in attendance using funds from Biggie's own estate as a recoupable expense. Burrows claimed Diddy hyped it as the biggest funeral New York has ever seen for PR, but shifted the massive cost costs to the estate after realizing the price tag, all while deeply involved in Bad Boy's operations and finances at the time. Deal argues that if anyone knew the real money trail, it was Burroughs, yet the documentary failed to grill him rigorously on specifics or evidence like royalty statements. Biggie's estate manager, Wayne Barrow, has since refuted this vehemently, stating Diddy and Bad Boy covered all costs with no reimbursements charged, calling the claim disrespectful and inaccurate after personal reviews of records. Diddy's son King Combs echoed this on social media. Deal further raises suspicions about how certain individuals close to Biggie mysteriously secured long-term control and influence over his estate and legacy immediately after his death, questioning who truly benefited and why those power shifts weren't scrutinized in the series. Deal points out that Biggie had reportedly intended to sever ties with several of these key figures while he was still alive. Despite those alleged plans, significant business decisions concerning publishing rights, marketing control, and executive credits were pushed through after his death. According to Deal, these changes were not coincidental. They were deliberate maneuvers executed precisely when Biggie was no longer present to object or protect his own interests. Rather than scrutinizing these power shifts, the documentary largely glossed over them. For Deal, the core problem extends beyond what Kirk Burroughs said on camera. It's what the filmmakers failed to challenge or investigate. He contends that these omissions serve to shield certain relationships and reputations, keeping the complete truth deliberately obscured. If Deal's allegations hold weight, the docuseries didn't truly expose the story. Instead, it merely skimmed the surface of a much darker, far more troubling reality.
50 and Ja, how you feel about both of them going at it? You seen it?
I couldn't do nothing but see it, bruh. You know what I'm saying? Because 50, tried to smash him with one of the stories that we told on Art of Dialogue before. But what people don't realize is that the story that they put out there is like that there was no girls in the room. I told the story and I said that there was girls in the room. I just want to get that out there straight before I tell you how it all went about and what really happened. There was Sarah Chapman and her girlfriend. They flew with us from Atlanta. But let me just start the story like this. Check it out. Me and Puff went to this exotic bookstore, brother. You know what I'm saying? This is the first time I ever went to an exotic bookstore, with Puff. I didn't know he even did that, but we was in Atlanta. So when we went to the door, they gave him a brown paper bag. So I guess this is a place that he was used to and people knew him there. So when they gave him a brown paper bag, Puff was just going around the store, just picking items off the shelves and stuff like that, putting them in the brown paper bag. So then, I was behind him and, no Diddy, but there was about 3 feet behind him, you know what I'm saying? As he was putting stuff and putting it in his bag and stuff like that. So this one particular place that he was put up there, he had to reach up kind of high and get it. So he just started pulling things out, and he was pulling a lot of them off there. So I was like so I looked up, and the thing said butt plugs. When he walking down the things, butt plugs. I said, "Hey, yo," just to mess with him. I said, "Hey, yo, what are you getting these for?" And he said, Can I do my shopping by myself? I said, "Yes, you can." And I waited up at the register for him, because they had the big counter up there. So when he came to the counter, I said, "Yo, I'm finna see what this motherfucker this mofo is putting in his bag." Cause I know he gonna have to take everything and put it on the counter so the dude could count it, right? My man, when he came there, he gave the dude a wad of hundreds like this. So he gave him a wad of hundred and just put it up there. The dude ain't even, you know what I'm saying? He ain't even want to know what was in the bag. I was like, yo, wow. So then we was catching a G4 jet. We had to go to the Astra because we was catching a G4 jet and we was going to North Carolina to do this show. So, somehow he had Ja Rule to go with us, you know what I'm saying? And him and Ja was talking. And this whole time him and Ja is talking, he talking about Ja going at Jigga. You know what I'm saying? This is crazy. But he was talking about Ja getting at Jay-Z. and he was talking bad and talking crazy about Jay-Z, and how Ja was talking about if it wasn't for him, that Jay wouldn't be the artist he was. He got him started. You know, he wrote certain things and stuff like that to put him out there. Cause, you know, back in the day, nobody was even effing with Jay like that. So, but Puff was trying to, he was adamant about Ja going at Jay. You understand? So, we get to the, hotel. We're in the presidential suite and all this stuff like that. So, Ja and him is, you know, chilling and everything with Jay, eating and everything, shit like that. So then they all went to the room. It was like him, Ja, Sarah, and her girlfriend. They went to the room. I don't know what they were doing in there. I didn't give a f. But Puff told me, Gene, do not let nobody come in this room. Don't let nobody come in this room. So, hour or so went by, whatever like that. Time went by. The doorbell rang. And it was this dude at the door saying that he was Ja's cousin. And I was like, he said, I'm here for Ja Rule. I said, who you? He said, I'm his cousin and everything like that. He said, I said, but, yo, he busy right now. I'm telling the dude that he's busy. You know, the dude is talking about, yo, but I want to talk to him. I said, yo, bro, they don't want to be bothered. You know, I'm trying to, you know, tell this kid, yo, they don't want to be bothered, bro. You know what I'm saying? He said, yo, that's my cousin. You know what I'm saying? I said, well, listen here, bro. They're in a room. They don't want to be bothered. You know, and you could see that there's only one room going back.
The release of Sean Combs, The Reckoning, the explosive Netflix docuseries executive produced by 50 Cent, has plunged the hip-hop world back into turmoil. What started as a deep dive into Sean Diddy Combs' mounting controversies has rapidly escalated into a revival of long-standing feuds, with 50 Cent once again positioned at the epicenter of industry drama. While Jay-Z has maintained complete public silence on the matter, fans and observers speculate that the documentary's fallout is creating significant pressure on some of rap's most powerful figures, forcing open old wounds that many thought had healed. Almost immediately after the series dropped, online speculation exploded. Social media buzz centered on Jay-Z, Ja Rule, often stylized as Jewel in rumors, and their inner circles allegedly planning a coordinated response to 50 Cent's provocative move. The rumors gained serious traction when fans spotted Ja Rule interacting online with individuals tied to 50 Cent's past conflicts, interactions that many interpreted as subtle signals of alliance building. Whispers quickly spread that Roc Nation and Ja Rule were quietly mobilizing to push back against 50 for reigniting these tensions and using the Diddy expose to settle old scores. As the chatter intensifies, the hip-hop community watches closely. Will this remain online speculation, or is a bigger countermove brewing behind the scene? True to his reputation, 50 Cent appeared unfazed by the mounting rumors. He dismissed them with his signature sarcasm, jokingly suggesting that his ongoing success is so threatening that it forces his rivals to band together against him. When Gene Deal was asked about the escalating tension between 50 Cent and Jay-Z, he addressed it head-on without evasion. However, he stressed that much of the public perception is built on distorted information. According to Deal, one of the biggest problems in the current discourse is the selective editing and reposting of old clips, snippets taken out of context, and reshaped to fuel whatever narrative is dominating social media at the moment. He points out that crucial context has frequently been omitted in the past, particularly regarding who was actually present during pivotal moments that later morphed into widespread rumors. Deal argues that what's being circulated and repeated today relies on an incomplete and often inaccurate version of events, overlooking the real behind-the-scenes dynamics and how things truly played out.
He was going through the room. I said, yo, bro, Jesus Christ had to come down here and take the breath out of my body before you go in that room. You understand? Next thing you know, I grabbed him and we started. There wasn't no wrestling thing like that because he couldn't handle it at the time. He could front and tell his friends because he didn't hit me up on Instagram. He could tell his friends all he want to. But that, if Puff and Ja tell you the story, that nigga was upside the piano. You understand? So now, Ja and Puff run out. They butt the neck and they was grabbing towels. You understand? They was grabbing towels. And then Puff like, yo, Gene, what's going on? Ja was like, yo, he said, that's my cousin. I was like, yo, bruh. He tried to get in the room and I wasn't letting him get in the room, bruh. And then Puff looked at Ja like this, you know, what that looked like, he said. And then, Ja said, you don't want to be up in that room because there was a whole lot of freaking going on. So I started laughing. Dude left. They went back in the room and that was it. You know what I'm saying? So now the story grew as if Ja was in there and him and Diddy was doing, something. And like I said that they were doing something. I don't know what the F they were doing, bruh. The only reason I know was some freaky things going up in there that Ja really didn't even understand because he said, yo, you ain't want to be up in there because there's a whole lot of freaky on. So I was like, I wouldn't have known nothing. I wouldn't even care. And I don't care today. But you know how the internet is. They cut and paste what they want to paste and they put what they want to put to make it seem like I was saying this dude and Puff was in there, alone. And they wasn't. You understand? And that was them. They did their thing, up in there with the honeys in there. I guess. I can only guess. So, listen, bro. I've said this 1,000 times. It was Sarah Chapman and her girlfriend. Now, Sarah Chapman, if people don't know who she is, now she's one of Puff baby mamas. But prior to her being one of Puff baby mama, this is the same girl that was dating Puff best friend, Corey Jacobs, and she was dating Tupac. You understand? So now she, like I told you before, she was the one that Puff betted in the office. He said, yo, I bet you I could get her from Gary Payton. You understand? And I didn't know she dated Gary Payton, but this is what Puff is saying. And it was a $500 bet that he said he'd get it in 2 weeks. We was out in Chicago, me, him, and Sarah. We was at some kind of function that Puff had to do a in-store and a walkthrough. You know what I'm saying? At one of his friends' parties. So, she was out there with her. Next thing you know, he got her like he said he would. You know what I'm saying? That incident with him and Ja, I feel bad, kind of, sort of, really, because everybody's trying to make it seem like, Ja was some kind of weirdo, but it is what it is, bro. I just told you what I seen. Both of them ran out the room, butt ass, grabbing towels, you know what I'm saying, with them chicks in there, you know what I'm saying? So whatever they did, that was on them. But that's the kind of games Puff play in order to get people to do what he wanted them to do. You understand? He got them, he wanted Ja to go at Jay-Z, so he got these chicks to go at Ja. You understand what I'm saying? Whether he did it or fell into it, I don't know. Because I don't know him and Jay-Z beef or why they was beefing in the first place or whatever the situation was. People who are close to either one of them may know more than I do on that. But I knew Puff was working to get Ja to go at Jay. And that
What unfolded after that infamous knock on the door is where the incident truly spirals into legend. Gene Deal describes the confrontation as short but charged with intensity, and what he witnessed, he says, is something most outsiders would struggle to believe. From Deal's viewpoint, it wasn't mere chaos or clashing egos. It was about enforcing strict boundaries. Boundaries he believes Ja Rule blatantly disregarded. Yet Deal goes further, suggesting the moment wasn't random street drama. Instead, it aligned with a broader pattern of calculated manipulation. According to him, Diddy had his own strategic agenda during that period, quietly orchestrating scenarios designed to place people in tense, compromising positions, provoke reactions, and ignite conflicts, especially those involving Jay-Z. Whether the individuals caught up in it fully grasped the bigger picture or were simply swept along by the momentum remains unclear. That lingering ambiguity, Deal implies, is what makes the entire episode so deeply unsettling. Gene Deal has spent years positioning himself as the ultimate insider ready to set the record straight on the bad boy era. Through his interviews and public statements, he's consistently argued that the full truth, especially around power shifts, financial dealings, and key events like Wolf's death, has been selectively buried or distorted. Is he finally delivering the unfiltered reality that the Netflix docuseries Sean Combs, The Reckoning, only hinted at? Quite possibly. Deal's detailed accounts challenge convenient narratives and highlight omissions that protect powerful figures, suggesting the documentary, despite its boldness, still pulled certain punches. Yet, as with any decades-old hip-hop saga involving loyalty, money, ego, and tragedy, there are always more layers. Deal's version carries weight because of his proximity to the events, but it's still one man's perspective in a story filled with conflicting testimonies, legal battles, and long-held grudges. Some details may forever remain contested or hidden. What do you think? Is Gene Deal the voice that's finally cutting through the noise and setting the record straight, or are there still deeper truths, buried motives, and unseen footage that even he hasn't revealed? Drop your thoughts below. If this breakdown kept you locked in, smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one. Until next time, stay sharp, fam.